Welcome to another episode of the Road to Edmond podcast. This is Nathaniel, aka Cleo, again, and today I am talking with Keisha Ladd. How you doing, Keisha?
I'm great. How are you?
I am wonderful now that I get to talk to you about the Road to Edmond and all of its craziness and hilarity. And Keisha, you played, what was your character? Is it Claire?
Claire, yes.
Okay, I had a conversation with Kat, who was at the church where we filmed our scene, and she came the next day. She drove down to Fowler, and we couldn't remember what her character's name was supposed to be. But I don't think we ever mentioned it on set or while we were recording, so I don't know, it was just weird. But
No.
Keisha plays Claire. Actually, I just saw a clip of our scene. Dave showed me the other day of the wedding scene with, like, you know, people are dancing at the reception and cutting the cake and everything. You won't know this if you watch the movie, but there was no music playing. And it's just people dancing around with no music. And it was hilarious. But he added the music in for the clip that I watched, and it makes a lot more sense.
Yeah, that was fun. We had to use our imagination together.
There were people counting and clapping, like, all right, 1, 2, ready, go. And it was so weird to watch without any sound, just all these people moving. Anyway.
Yeah.
So how did you get involved in the film? How did you hear about it, and how did you decide, yeah, this is something I want to do?
So I actually saw an ad on Craigslist. I was looking for talent gigs. I just moved back to Colorado after traveling in India for a few months, and then going kind of across the Western United States. So I just arrived back in Colorado, and I was looking for some fun gigs to do. And I saw Dave's post on there, and I thought it was a really interesting idea. And so I messaged him, and then we had a little video Skype call sometime in the next week. And yeah, I was really interested in the project. I thought it was a really cool idea. So that's how I became aware of it. And then I think the three of us all talked together at some point in the following week.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, I mean, I just really liked the fact that, because it is a project, you know, it's not just a film. Like, a film to me is just like, oh, you know, this is going to be entertaining. But this whole thing is it's just the opportunity to really challenge people. And I mean, I guess you could look at it just as entertainment, but I think it's so much more than that. But it's an opportunity to challenge people and give them an opportunity to look at their faith differently, or if they don't have faith, maybe gain faith, or look at other people with faith differently. So I just thought it was really interesting for me, especially like just coming back from India and experiencing, you know, Eastern philosophy. It was super relevant at the time.
So how would I, you know, one of the things that I enjoyed about getting to know you and working with you is being able to talk about deep things. You know, we had a couple phone conversations before we started filming, you know, and you were just like, I want to get to know you. Like, who are you? And that's so refreshing, because most people avoid talking about important things or meaningful things. So, you know, how would you describe your faith? I mean, you just mentioned you were in India and sort of explored some different things. So, you know, how does your faith play out now, currently in your life? How has it changed? And you know, how does it connect to this film in the way that makes sense to you?
Yeah, definitely. So I was raised Christian. My grandfather was the minister of the church I went to. And that was a huge part of my life growing up. And I think we stopped going around like when I was like 13 or 14, but from age, you know, like 7 to 14, it was just a huge part of my community, of who I was, you know, like how I interacted with people. The church was my family, you know, especially being like the minister's granddaughter. You know, I was at the center of that family all the time. So
yeah, I bet.
Yeah, and he stopped going. No, you know, to this day, I'm 28. Still, no one has really explained to me why we stopped going. But he stopped preaching at the church. I know, I should ask them. But he stopped preaching at the church, I think, because of political reasons or whatever, the church was kind of going in a direction that he didn't want to be a part of. And so he stopped preaching at the church. So therefore we stopped going to church. And it was kind of devastating for me, honestly. And I didn't realize it until many years later as an adult, how much it impacted me to stop going and to stop being a part of that family and just like lose connection with those people. Yeah. So we just stopped going to church altogether. So I kind of just didn't have that fellowship, except for, like the convenient times of going like on Christmas Eve or going on Easter. And when I became an adult and I went to college, I was having a really hard time with the faith that I grew up with. And I had a lot of questions that I felt like weren't being answered. And I was just really confused. I was in that identifying time of my life in general, figuring out who I was and how I related to the world. And I was signing up for classes, I think my freshman or sophomore year of college. And one of the options for one of the classes was a Buddhism course. And at the time, I had no idea anything about Buddhism. I didn't know anything about Eastern philosophy, but I knew that I was interested and I wanted to learn about other faiths because I really didn't have any exposure to anything besides Christianity. So I took this course and it just blew my mind. Like the teacher was fantastic. Like if anyone's out there has been like gone to university or even high school, like there are a few teachers that really stick out in your mind that like really impacted who you've become as an adult. And she definitely was one of them. She was just so passionate about Buddhism and about Eastern philosophy. And she's traveled to Asia and it was really profound for me. So her teaching style and then what she was teaching just really stuck out to me. I was very connected to the ideas. I liked the idea of, everyone is God. And it was interesting for me because it was a lot of the same ideas that I was getting, from my Christian past, that everyone's made in the image of God or everyone is God. It's like the same concept, but semantic wise, it was a little bit different.
Sure. Yeah.
So I felt connected to this other part of religion and faith. And I wasn't 100% sold on this idea of like reincarnation 100%, but it was really intriguing to me. I really liked it. So I started pursuing it more. I took a few more Buddhism classes with her. And then I discovered yoga during that time. And that's when I knew, okay, this is my thing. Like, this is me. So for anyone that doesn't know, yoga isn't really a religion. It's more of, and everyone always thinks of people like in pretzel form.
Right.
It's actually,
I go on the soapbox all the time, but you do it now. I do it too often. So you go ahead.
Well, it's so much more than the physical practice. The physical practice is actually just to help you be able to sit in meditation to reach enlightenment. So the physical practice just helps you, your body strengthen and be flexible enough to be able to sit in silence, which like nobody can do, especially in America. Like it's really hard for people to just sit still. So it was originally designed to help people just sit and be and exist in the present moment to reach, enlightenment. And again, it's a semantic thing. Enlightenment, heaven, nirvana, like whatever you want to call it, it's all kind of the same idea. Liberation from suffering, whatever. So I really liked that yoga was about now. It wasn't about, your past sins or your future sins or where you're going when you die or anything like that. It was about how can I be the best version of myself right now? How can I treat everyone with love and kindness for the betterment of me and for the whole world. And I really, really liked that. I liked that it was simple and to the point. There weren't a bunch of rules. It was kind of like, here are the guidelines. If you want to follow them, cool. And if you don't, then that's your own problem. It's your own suffering that you're causing. So I really liked the accountability in yoga as well. It was, like if I'm suffering, it's my own fault. It's not, someone punishing me. It's my own issue that I need to deal with. So yoga kind of helped me blend all of the religious experiences that I've had into just being and loving. And now I guess I would define my faith as just love. I don't identify as being like a Christian or a Hindu or a Buddhist or anything like that. I guess I would say I'm a yogi, but again, it's like, for me now, it's not about having a certain title. It's just about, if you are Christian, you identify as Christian, and you do all things with love, then I'm all about it. If you're Hindu and you do all things with love, then I'm all about it. Like now it's just like I can go to church and feel comfortable. Like 5 years ago, I didn't feel comfortable because I didn't really know how to place myself and like what to call it or whatever.
Yeah.
And, I went to India and I can go to Hindu temples and be a part of their religious celebrations and not get caught up in like the label that I give myself, and not feel weird about being there because I don't identify as that kind of person. I'm just a person on this planet that is experiencing love. And like, if your religion is about love, then I'm all about it. Does that make sense?
Oh, totally. Yeah. And there's so much there, and I'm with you in your journey. Well, except for the India part, I've never been to India, but a lot of how you described your journey, I think, lines up very well with mine, and I imagine a lot of people's, especially of our generation. One of the things I was thinking about while you were telling your story, and I'm curious to hear you, I don't know, maybe explain a little bit more or delve a little bit deeper, is the relationship between community and being a sort of an individual. For me, I know that, and I never made this connection until now, that for the very few years that I was part of a church, Christian church tradition and community, it was never encouraged for you to be an individual. The community was more important. Yet when I started to, explore Eastern thought, Buddhism, Zen, Taoism, I don't know why, it just sort of accidentally happened, sort of was more isolated, was born by myself. And it was, meditation is a very individual thing. Someone else can't meditate for you. You have to do it yourself. And so just the contrast between, wow, and I'm just not realizing this, like the connection of community is something that I've always desired and missed from that church experience, and that I've never found, or at least not very well, at least through the Eastern path, if that makes sense. I don't know if any of this is making sense, or sort of how you've dealt with that, because I feel like that's a common experience for people, at least, like I said, of our generation in the West, who are sort of coming to Buddhism through a Western lens, that there's this odd, it doesn't really fit in, like, I don't know, how do you make sense of the role of community versus the role of the individual? I don't know if there's anything there, but if it's not, Dave can edit it all out and we can move on. But I'm just curious to hear what you have to say about it.
Makes sense. Yeah, no, it makes sense. Like, that's something that I struggle with a little bit, because I think for me, community equals accountability. And if I don't have that, I lose myself. So there's like, and it's one of those things where you take, at least for me, I like take certain ideas from Christianity, from Eastern philosophy, and I meld them into like my own thing. So like one thing in Eastern philosophy is the individual is like being the best version of yourself, and meditation and doing your own work. And then there's also the idea of balance in all things. Like the Buddha preached, if you will, the middle way. So finding balance in all things. So you need community, but you also need to balance that with making sure you're accountable for yourself and you're doing your own work. So go to church on Sunday, but you also need to pray throughout the week, like go practice yoga, go meditate, but also go out and be a part of the community and give back to the community. So that is one challenging thing, because in the West, Christianity is so prevalent that I could find like 100 churches within 10 miles of here. But if I want to go to satsang, which is for yogis, that's like chanting and singing and that kind of community experience, that's a lot harder to find. Like there's like one place in Cincinnati that does that. So
right.
It is a little bit more challenging to find that community. And it's easy to find like a yoga class, but the physical practice, but not so easy to find the community, the people that are actually doing the work. So it can be challenging in both ways. Like my grandfather wasn't feeling connected to his church anymore. He wasn't feeling connected to that community anymore. And the family decided to disconnect from that. And then we lost that fellowship. So if you find yourself like, okay, I'm really interested in this path, then you got to find the balance and you have to do the work. And I realized that it's not going to just come to me. Like I have to go out and find it, and it is challenging. And when I was in India, like there's a lot of Hindus in India and there's a lot of people that practice Buddhism as well. And they're chanting on Saturday nights or whatever day. Like they have, every week, twice a week, they do their community thing. And it's just not as much of a thing here. Here we teach and we experience more of the philosophy of Buddhism and of Hinduism, of yoga and all that.
Right.
But maybe not
a lot more cerebral. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That's a great way to explain it. Yeah. So does that answer your question?
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
Okay.
I think that because of our particular situation and context, being an individual is sort of assumed. That's the default. Like there's a strong individualism in America, whereas in the East, I don't know that that's necessarily the case, at least from what I can understand. So, these things are they take on interesting twists and turns when you take something in one context and place it in another. So Buddhism in the East looks very different from Buddhism in the West, and the problems that arise from that are very different. It's just really, really fascinating. Thank you for sharing I know we've talked about this before. No one else has heard this. That's why we're recording this so everyone can hear your amazing story. I'm curious to know how you see that connecting to the film and the plot of the film. Because you mentioned earlier on that you were interested in the project because of what you hope it will do to people's faith, opening up new questions and new avenues. So how does your faith journey and how you look at the world connect to the film?
So I think the big reason it was so interesting for me right after India to be a part of this is in India, at least my experience of India, their religion, their spirituality is an integral part of their daily lives there. Here it seems, and this is just my experience, but here it seems like more of a convenience thing for a lot of people. Like I go to church on Sundays or I go to Easter, like I occasionally experience it or whatever, but there it's just like, it's all the time, like everything that they do, like everyone is God. You treat everyone like God. And like, it's just a big part of who they are. So when I had that experience, I came back realizing that I've been a convenient Christian or a convenient yogi. I haven't really been living my life every day. I haven't been practicing, the things that I've been pursuing and looking at, and saying that, this is what I believe, but I'm not really doing anything about it. So when I was invited to be a part of this film, I thought, okay, this is a really good opportunity for me to actually do what I believe in and help challenge people.
I was just going to say it's really refreshing to hear that. And I wish I could say that I have as much I had as much thought and depth in my reasons for doing the film, but honestly, I don't. But it's so great to hear that you do. That's really awesome.
Yeah, no, it was really cool. For me, the film is an opportunity for the audience, no matter how they identify on a religious or Christian or whatever spectrum, to rethink their values and like how they see themselves and how they judge others. And again, like maybe some people are just going to watch it and think this is really entertaining because it is funny. Like you guys are hilarious in the movie. It's a funny movie, but it's also it's so deep and profound in so many ways, and it's not forcing anything on the audience. It gives the audience an opportunity to challenge themselves and to see things a little bit differently. And so I was excited to be a part of a project based in love and, seeking to really push people to get them thinking, like, because it's like a revamp of what, Christianity is or religion is or spirituality is in 2017, 2018, because things are constantly changing. Like the world's a completely different place than it was, in the 90s and the 80s and the 70s, 100 years ago. And I think just like, we get cell phone updates, we get car updates, we update our homes. We also need to update the way we see our spirituality or see our religion. I think that's really important. So I was excited to be a part of this project that's like innovative in that way. And I've never heard of a film doing that. So it was really cool for me. And it's cool just to be an actor in a film, like I've never
Definitely.
So obviously I was in theater as a child. So there was a part of me that was giddy about, finally being in a movie and being able to act, and like just the excitement of being behind, being in front of the cameras and everything. I'd never had that experience. So, there's the shallow part that's just like, this is fun. So it was a little bit of everything.
All right. So let's actually talk about the movie now. That's a great segue. I talked with Kat earlier, and she didn't realize that the day of the wedding scene, that's when we had all of the extras and everything. That's when we shot your scene. Was the first day that we were filming. I don't know if you were aware of that at the time or not.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, so that was the very first day, and Tripp and I had we had been doing an event separate from the movie. So there was this event that went Friday night. Well, I guess we did something Thursday night, Friday, and Saturday, and we were up super late Saturday night, like just cleaning and taking care of everything. And then we got up at like 6 a.m. on Sunday, and we're like, all right, we're gonna film. We're gonna begin day one. Let's go. And so that was the beginning. The first scene that we shot was all of the scenes with the extras, with the wedding scene, the reception scene. That's where you and I have a conversation. So, I mean, I had never done anything like this before. I don't even think I was in a play as a kid, right? Completely out of my element. And I was terrified and exhausted, but you know what? That day was so much fun with everyone around, all the extras and everyone. It was great. It was there was a lot of energy, and it was a great way to kick off filming the movie. So talk a little bit about that day from your perspective. I think I've mentioned it before in some other episodes of this, but I want to hear from you what your perspective was of, because you were, I don't know what time you got there, but we were there for a while. It was a long day.
Yeah. Well, I was aware that you guys essentially didn't sleep for like the 4 days beforehand. So
pretty much. Or the 2 weeks after, but yeah.
I was pretty amazed that everyone was conscious. So, like I said, I've never been in a movie, so that was exciting for me to see everything happening. And then, like meeting all the people was so cool, like people from all over the country. And it just it was so exciting to be doing something like improv, where none of us really knew what we were doing. We just knew like ideas we were trying to get across. So I like that it wasn't like this strict thing where you need to be in position A and he needs to be in position B and you need to gesture like this. Like it was very like everyone brought their own personality and their own kind of ideas to their character. So like Dave may have written out character ideas, but then he gave us the power to like put our personality in there and make our own person. And that was really cool to experience that. Like having the little pizza party that we did when we took a break during filming, that was really, really awesome. That was probably, I mean, filming was great, but that was probably like my favorite part, was just being able to chat with the other actors and then chatting with the people that actually went to the church that we were going to. Cause I had never seen a church like that. Like super, super liberal church with like a pride flag on the outside. I'm just like, what is this? Like, this is amazing. So it was so cool to like talk with those people and, just understand, because I like I said, I've never really seen anything like that. My Christian experience was very Midwest, like proper, like strict Christian experience. So like having this different experience with those people and, knowing that some of them have come out at their church and the church was very welcoming. And it was just a really interesting experience to hear about their backgrounds. And everyone was so nice and fun. And like you mentioned earlier, like doing the dance scene without the music, like no one complained. People were exhausted. We've been filming all day, but people just went with it. We danced for like 45 minutes to an hour with no music, which anyone ever tried, it's really hard to do that.
It's
like you
really
have to
weird.
Make beats in your head, and it's just like really hard. But everyone was just so cool, and I don't know, it was just like you said, good energy. Everyone was positive. Like we had no idea what the heck we were doing, but everyone was just really cool and flowed with it. So that was really nice. I enjoyed that a lot.
One of my favorite moments in that day was, I think this was right after the pizza party dinner break thing, and I was tired and stressed out because I had to do this scene, and I had never done anything like this before. I don't know who any of these people are, and now I have to like basically yell at Tripp's character, at Larry,
Yes.
and shout at this, and I'm so stressed out about it. You came over and like, let's do some yoga, let's stretch, and we just did some stretches right there in front of everyone, and it was exactly what I needed. It was so helpful, and just your presence and your ability to say, hey, this is what you need to do. This, it was perfect, just what we needed.
Good.
Now
I just needed some centering,
yeah, definitely, especially after that day. Now let's talk a little bit about our scene at the table, because your character Claire knows the two women who are getting married, or knows one of them, and we sit down and we have this conversation, because I've been sort of sulking, sitting off by myself, not dancing, watching everyone else dance to no music, and you come over and you just have a conversation with me. Now, this was a hard scene to do from my perspective.
Oh my gosh.
We had so many other ones to do after that. And looking back on it, that one, I think, was the hardest one.
Yeah, it was really challenging for me. Like, I mean, I've done a little bit of improv in the past, but most of my experience with theater, and like you said, you don't even have experience in theater, but I had experience in theater, and it was, this is your line, this is how you say it. So like, I was really good at memorizing lines. I was really good at knowing, okay, this is my character, this is my purpose, blah, blah, blah. But it was kind of just, well, these are the general ideas you need to get across, memorize them in your head, figure them out, and spit it out in the next 5 seconds. So it was really challenging. And like, there was no music playing, but we had to pretend like there was. So
right.
I was supposed to shout at you.
Yeah.
And I kept forgetting that I was supposed to shout at you. And I felt so bad because everyone was tired and we had to do like 10 takes because I kept forgetting to yell at you. And then, or I forget, like, there was one idea we were supposed to get across, and I felt so bad. And of course, I'm like hard on myself in general, but definitely when it comes to performance and stuff. So I felt guilty that everyone was exhausted and we had to do it like 10 times because I kept forgetting like silly little things. And yeah, improv is hard. Like, I know that now. It is very, very challenging, especially when it's improv, but you still have to get, these 5 things across in a certain way. And you have to yell over pretend music. That was hard. That was really hard.
Yeah. I mean, you said earlier that, one of the great things about this project is that it wasn't scripted, and, we had the freedom and the power to sort of shape the content. But at the same time, we did need to get across certain ideas. There were certain key phrases or things that we needed to get across. So, like, there's the rub. On the one hand, it's nice that it's free, but on the other hand, it's also really hard when you have to film the same scene over and over and over again to, just so you can get it right. And yeah, it was definitely really challenging. But I haven't seen the full final version of it, but from what I've seen so far, it looks really good.
Okay, good, because I was really worried. I felt like one of those takes had to have been good. Hopefully, we did it like 100 times, but yeah, I was just like trying so hard, and even like they showed me like a playback like after one of the takes, and like my arm looked funny, so I had to like move my arm down, and then I was worried about how my arm looked, and like if my angle, my head was correct, and if I looked natural, if I was blinking too much. I was just like, oh my god, this is overwhelming.
I know, so much to think about.
But eventually we got it. Yeah.
That's awesome. So let's sort of wind down the conversation a little bit and maybe ask some lighter-ish questions. What are you a movie person? Do you like watching movies? Are you a movie buff?
Yes.
All right. So what film or films do you think have had the biggest impact on you, or have made you question things the most?
Well, I'm really, really into like health and wellness. So as far as documentaries go, like food documentaries have been really profound in my life since I was like 20, 21. So like Food Inc., What the Health, Forks Over Knives, any of those things that just really like, I don't know if you've seen any of those, but
Yeah.
they're really intense and they
Yeah.
just kind of expose what we're all numb to with the food industry. So those have really impacted the way I see our food and the way, you know, the food that I choose to put in my body and the way I feel about it. So that's been really profound. I don't think there's one specific one that's impacted me the most, but just that general genre of like food documentaries.
Sure.
And then as far as like nonfiction, I actually just recently rewatched Dead Poet Society with Robin Williams,
Oh,
and
so good.
I haven't seen that in so long. It's really good. Like
Yeah.
it's just really. He's an amazing actor. Obviously, he's one of my favorite actors when I was a kid, and I just really like how, again, that balance idea. It shows, you know, like all of these things are important. You know, going to school, and especially as a young person, you think, oh, I got to get a degree, I gotta make money, I have to do these things, you know. But then there's also like you have to enjoy life, like every day and every moment. You have to see the beauty in the simple things, and that has been really, because I feel like lately, especially with the holidays and moving back to Ohio and everything, I've been really stressed out. And, you know, having a baby on the way, I'm just like, I got to do the things and I got to organize and I have to do it. But I'm like missing out on the little tiny, you know, like the little important things, the little beauties and everyday experiences. So that kind of reminded me of the importance of all of those things. So that one's been really profound, at least lately for me.
Yeah, that's such a good movie. Such a good movie. Oh, Captain, my Captain. I love that scene.
Yes.
So
Yes.
you just slipped it in there, just subtly, that you are expecting. Now, is it a girl or?
Yes.
It's a girl. But did you think it was a boy?
Yes.
But now you found out it's a girl.
I did, but yeah, I think part of the reason I thought it was a boy is because I kind of wanted it to be a boy. Because I mean, this is a whole different direction we could go, but I think for me, boys seemed easier. And as a female, I just like, as soon as I found out it was a girl, you know, my boyfriend really wanted a girl, so I was excited for him. But for some reason later in the day, I just had all of these things that hit me. I was just like, well, oh my gosh, you know, like when she starts dating and her first period and like boys
no.
and like all of these things are like, how is she going to survive? You know, like how is she going to, she's going to die. She's not going to be able to handle it. And I'm like, well, okay, I need to have faith, first of all. Like, I managed to deal with it. Like,
Right.
there's been a lot of women in the world that have experienced the same thing. So I think I kind of wanted a boy because there was this fear of what it meant to be a female. But honestly, after, you know, reflecting on it, I think now is the best time to be a woman in our society. I think there's a lot of awareness and a lot going on with, you know, female liberation and, you know, equality and all that. So I think she's going to be a little monster and it's going to be great. And in the best way.
That's awesome.
I'm excited.
Yeah, that's so cool. My mom is convinced that boys are easier to raise than girls, but you know, until I experience it on my own, I'm not going to have any comment on that. But if you know, you didn't realize at the time, but you were pregnant during the film, which is, I feel like that's super cool.
It is. It was funny because it was actually really ironic because, so I think I was only like 4 weeks along when we filmed, and I took a test like the following week or following 2 weeks. But the day before we filmed, my car broke down on the highway.
I remember that. Oh, yeah.
Came out. Yeah. Yeah. I had a stressful weekend. It was really intense. But I was glad to be around everyone with positive attitudes. But so the AAA guy came out to tow me, and I remember we had this long conversation about children, and he asked me, like, "Oh, do you have kids?" And I said, "Well, no, and I don't really know if or when I'll ever have them. You know, if I do, I think it'll be a surprise. You know, I've kind of just, you know, I just gotten back from India and everything, and I was just like really enjoying my freedom. And I went on this rant about how great it is to be free, and I don't need kids. And it's just so ironic because literally 2 weeks later, I'm like, well, foot in mouth.
Yeah, that's hilarious.
But yeah, but I mean, it's amazing how much your idea of life changes. Just, I mean, as a female, especially just being pregnant and like seeing how different your life is going to be. Because I was on this adventure of a lifetime, you know, in 2017, traveling solo to India and Spain, and just like going to rainbow gathering and like doing all these crazy things out west. And I kind of saw at the time before I got pregnant, I kind of saw life as being, or in my spirituality, honestly, as being less with kids, you know, like, oh, I have to focus all my energy on them instead of me. And now being pregnant, you know, 6.5 months pregnant, I realized I am way closer to God and way closer to my spirituality than I've ever been in my entire life. Like,
Yeah.
way closer. It's humbled me. It's made me realize that I have more opportunities in life, and I treat people differently. Like, I'm way more intuitive. I'm way more present than I was before. And I'm super grateful. And it is kind of cool to be able to watch this movie in the future and be like, there's a baby in there. Kind of cool. And I didn't know about it, but it was God's little funny gift to me at the time.
Well, yeah, that's such a cool experience. My wife is a doula, so she has helped many women deliver, and just hearing her describe those experiences, and you know, it's so powerful and life changing, and it makes total sense to me. We don't have kids, but you know, it does make sense to me how that experience would radically reframe a lot of the questions that you had beforehand, and you know, the way that you looked at the world and faith and everything like that. But what is one deep question that keeps you up at night, or that you don't know the answer to, or something that's like driving you to find an answer, or to keep moving forward, or something?
Well, one thing, and it's hard because I don't always think about this, but sometimes when I'm not as present as I could be, I just think, like, what's the point? What is, especially in the middle of winter, I'm just like, what is the point? You know, why did God or the universe, or whatever you want to call it, choose to manifest itself in this way? Like, why do the flowers grow? Why do I go to work? Like, what are we all doing here? How did we get here? Like, what is the point? Like, I mean, that's a huge question, but sometimes I really wonder, like, and that's just nothing, no one can answer that question really until you're dead. You know, you don't know.
There's
that's my thing.
a song I really like, and one of the lyrics is, it's a question with an answer only dead men know.
Yes. There you go.
But I'm with you. That's a question I, in my darker moments, in my winter moments, I ask a lot, like, especially as I'm sitting in traffic out here. Like, oh, what is the point? Where am I even going? Who are these people? Where are they going? What is any of this? Definitely. Well,
exactly.
Keisha, aka Claire, thank you so much for chatting with us and talking with us about the film and your experiences, and sharing so much about your story. Where can people find you? Because I know you've sort of documented your trip to India and everything like that. So where can people go to find out more about your experiences there?
First of all, thank you too. It's been an absolute pleasure. It's been cool to kind of reconnect. There's so many months after doing the film, so I appreciate that. Road to Ananda is my Instagram. That is a place where you can definitely keep up with my travels and my experiences. And then I also have a blog that's roadtoananda.com. And that's my blog that I usually update every week or every couple of weeks, and just my experiences of the pregnancy and my spirituality. And I definitely do like throwbacks to my experiences of India too. And if anyone has any travel questions about going to Asia, actually as like a solo female, it's definitely a unique experience going as a solo female. I'm more than happy to answer any questions that anyone has. I've already had some people reach out to me through my Instagram, and I'd be more than happy to answer any questions anyone has on that.
All right, and we'll link to all of those places, Road to Ananda, on the show notes for this in the podcast and on the website and Facebook and everything like that. So definitely make sure to check out Road to Ananda, Road to Edmond, Road to Ananda. There's something there, maybe, I don't know. But Keisha, thank you so much. And make sure to check out all the other interviews on the Road to Edmond podcast. And we'll talk to you next time. Thanks.